This marks the second part of this manhwa. If you haven't viewed the previous parts, you can access it by clicking the I button located above, or the link is provided in description. Let's begin our recap video for today's manhwa. After getting back at ARC, all the first-year students are given a holiday. Joyce comes to Han, who is busy reading a book, and asks if he would like to play soccer. Looking at his expression, Joyce asks if he even knows how to play soccer, and he agrees, closing the book and getting up from the bed. After some time, all of the students gather on the football field and form a team to begin the match, with Dimitri instructing Del to avoid using psychic abilities during the game. Knowing that ARC only provides a holiday when there is a matter of great importance, the children look at their instructors sitting in a meeting room, busy discussing something. Meanwhile, inside the meeting room, the instructors discussed the matter of advancement evaluation for Level 2, under the chairmanship of ARC Chief of Staff Alexander. Looking at the documents, Sasha Grace, one of the researchers, states that there are 4 students going to be promoted this time and asks what is so special about them. Reading their details, Alexander first talks about Del, Simon and Dimitri, stating that they do not seem to lack anything and are very capable. Reading about Han, he comes to find out that his psychic ability has been the lowest since enrollment and that he was promoted from Class D just because of John's request. Wondering why a kid like that could advance, Alexander turns to John, telling him to explain his reasons. In response, Wei Chen reminds him of Han's fight with John, explaining that he has outstanding weapon handling ability, patience, and mentality, everything that a soldier requires. Hearing that, Alexander remarks that it is quite unusual for him to praise someone like that. Taking the discussion forward, John states that, aside from Han's psychic potential, his telekinesis control is very refined, and he can use it to strengthen his weapon-wielding skill. Above everything else, he highlights the fact that Han learned all of these by himself, without being taught. While Han keeps scoring goals against the opposite team on the ground. Hearing all these claims, Alexander becomes silent and moves on to Kiro. Meanwhile on the ground, Joyce praises Han for his expertise in playing the game, stating that he does not seem like he has never learned to play the game. Meanwhile, Dimitri and Del start to argue among themselves about losing the game to Han. While the advancement of Kiro to Level 2 is being discussed, Sasha becomes annoyed upon discovering that Kiro is nominated despite being a psychologically sensitive child. Stating that the most vital thing among their standards is mentality, Sasha states that he will die if he undergoes the physical transformation process and faces grave dangers. In response, John smiles, revealing that Kiro's psychic advancement is by far the greatest, and he is even far past the rest of the 3. However, despite his merits, Alexander considers his mentality to be the biggest problem. However, John explains that this is the reason why Han needs to advance with him, since his mentality is greatly influenced by Han. Stating that Han is currently playing the role of his older brother, John causes Alexander to feel confused, remarking that both John and Wei Chen seem to be eager to advance Han. Meanwhile, on the football field, Han and Joyce collaborate to take the ball to the court once again, stealing it from all the other members of the opposite group. Reaching near the court, Joyce finds both Del and Dimitri standing there to snatch the ball from them while they are trying to stop Joyce from scoring a goal. He quickly passes the ball to Han, who kicks it towards the court, winning the game and astonishing the members of the opposite team. Celebrating their success, Han states that both of them make a great team. When someone calls out to them telling them to stop playing, turning around, they find John, who informs them about an announcement about the results that is going to be made soon, but states that he will tell them the result beforehand. He reveals that all 4 of the candidates have been confirmed for advancement, leaving them surprised. Coming to Han, Joyce puts his hand on his shoulder, asking why he is making such an expression and congratulating him for his advancement. Smiling and excited, Joyce tells him to make sure to save a good spot for him, and Han smiles, hoping to meet again in the future while they are shaking hands in agreement. John comes to them, telling them to return to their dorms and instructing the advancing candidates to pack up and stand by as the students start to leave. Han turns to John, thanking him and stating that his advancement evaluation and the opportunity to become a class representative were all because of him. In response, John states that he will not be able to give up after this, and Han assures him that he is not the one to back off. Smiling, he wishes the best of luck to Han, telling him to make and survive, and Han salutes him in response while he walks away. After some time, all four of them pack up their things and come out of the dorms with Dmitri, feeling super excited for what they are going to experience. While Han confirms the meeting place to be a medical ward, Kiro starts to tremble with fear and anxiety. Holding Kiro's shoulder, Han tells him not to worry, stating that they will be together. But Kiro expresses how scared he is because of the treatment they're going to be receiving. Stating that there is nothing to be scared of, Dmitri urges them to proceed towards the ward, remarking that this treatment can make them much stronger than they are now. At the moment, as they reach the ward, they are welcomed by Sasha, who tells them that she will be taking care of them for the next 5 weeks. Hearing that, Han's surprised and asks why it is going to take so long. She explains that they will spend 2 weeks in incubation and will receive rehabilitation training for the next 3 weeks. Realizing that they will have to spend 2 whole weeks inside the incubation machine, Kiro, Del, and Dmitri become shocked. Turning to them, Han states that he will see them after 2 weeks and encourages them all, causing them to join hands. Watching that, Sasha smiles, realizing that the reason Han was so highly recommended by John was this encouraging aspect of his personality. After placing them all into incubation machines, Sasha instructs her colleagues to fill the container with culture fluid. Causing them all to feel suffocated and disgusted, she looks at them feeling uneasy, and states that it is claustrophobia that every child experiences at this stage, telling them to endure it and stating that they will fall asleep soon. After spending 1 week inside the incubation machine, Sasha comes to examine them, thinking that the coming week is going to be critical for them. As she watches them, she wonders human species must go this far to be worthy of survival. While she holds her head, her colleague approaches her stating that she seems tired and should go to rest. Coming out of the room, she goes to her office, and finds John sitting there and remarks that he claims not to be interested in these children, yet comes to the ward every day. In response, John, busy smoking a cigarette, states that it is because he wants to make sure she does not damage his assets or kill them. Causing her to feel annoyed, she reveals that there has been no problem so far, and they are currently in the middle of inserting the second culture fluid. She further explains that the second culture fluid consists of a dragon's psychic core and contains a highly concentrated liquid that has diluted parts of a dragon's heart. Thinking that resonating with the dragon's core can enable them to use their psychic abilities more naturally. John expects Han to raise his level of psychic abilities through that. While he is thinking about that, Sasha's wristwatch suddenly starts to ring, and she runs towards the incubation room in a hurry. Opening the door, she asks what the matter is, and finds Han moving inside the incubation machine, informing her that Han has regained consciousness. Sasha's colleague states that he is going to feel an excruciating amount of pain. Worried for his well-being, Sasha quickly goes forward, stating that they need to stop it, and is about to pull the lever, when John stops her, stating that she cannot do it. Shocked by that, Sasha asked how he can stop her from doing that, and he explains that Han needs to advance to the next level no matter what. 1 week later, Han, now resembling an adult, sits in Sasha's office while she inquires about how he has been, and he states that he is fine, stating that there has never been a case similar to his in the past. Sasha reveals that it was the first time a psyker showed resistance to psychic abilities. She remembers the time when she wanted to save Han by stopping the process, but John forbade her, stating that Han did not reach this point by being recognized for his psychic abilities. He told her to continue the process without resonance, stating that Han is the type of child who can endure anything no matter what. Remembering that, she asked if he feels uncomfortable in any way, and Han states that he feels quite refreshed and will not have to worry about being kicked out for his low grade after that. Hearing that Sasha acknowledges his incredible mentality, thinking that he is the soldier John always recommended for having the strongest mentality. Wondering why his psychic abilities are so low despite having such a strong mentality, she tells him to leave and he gets up. After leaving the office, he meets his other fellows and is warmly greeted by Dmitri, who states that they are going to be at level 2 from that day on, while Del stands at a distance with the same cold gaze. Han remarks that 5 weeks have passed in the blink of an eye, and everyone has changed a lot. Looking at Kiro, Han remarks that he seems to have changed the most, and expresses his relief at everyone's survival, stating that there is nothing strange about it. Del starts to walk away, telling him not to act like he is their leader, while the rest of the 3 keep talking. After leaving the ward, they'd reach the building for level 2 psykers, where they get their own separate room to stay. Among the 12 squads comprising the level 2 psykers, Han and Kiro are assigned to squad 7. Going to meet their squad, they are greeted by Kato Soki, the leader of squad 7, who explains to them the 3 core trainings in level 2, with one of them being a firearm. He asks if they are aware of the reason they practice firearm shooting and stating that modern arms are still effective against minions, Han agreeing to that. Katasoki explains that the minions they know about include low intelligence beings like ogres, grunts and werewolves. However, there are high intelligence beings like Elo, as well, who serve as mid-level commanders and possess psychic abilities as well. Hearing that, Han inquires if it does not mean that physical weapons will not work against them, and Soki agrees, stating that they can easily ward off physical weapons. However, unlike the dragons, they possess a very limited amount of psychic energy, which once exhausted makes them ordinary targets like the other monsters. After that, he moves to the airborne training and mock battles, stating that they are also equally important methods and that they are a competitive method of fighting against the other squads. He explains that mock battles are held in artificial forests in which the main event is to capture the flag, which means to steal the flag of the opponent at their base. He considers that to be very difficult training, in which there is a high chance of getting fatal injuries because of the sharp weapons. The third type of training, called airborne training, is done through air bits, and is simple enough that they only need to make the opponent fall. However, it needs a strong supporter at the back who can manipulate the air bits to help their squad members travel and attack when needed. Stating that they did not previously have any psykers to support them from behind, Soki remarks that this problem has been solved after the arrival of Kiro. Looking at Kiro, Soki asks if he will be able to manage them properly, causing Kiro to hesitate while replying. Looking at his hesitation, the vice team leader tells him to reply properly, stating that they are not asking for his opinion and that if his squad wants him to fulfill a role, he must do it. In response, Han states that Kiro can definitely do it but is not the type of person to perform well under pressure. In response, the vice team leader becomes angry, remarking that he does not know anything. However, Soki stops him from overreacting, stating that Han definitely has a point and they still have a lot to learn from their experiences. Turning to Han, Soki states that despite being on the same level, all of the other members of the squad are his seniors and far more experienced than him, telling him to be respectful. He further states that Han came to their squad just because he wanted Kiro on their team, stating that both of them are a package deal like a bonus, stating that he does not expect much from ranking psychic like Han. Soki instructs him to avoid getting in their way, causing all of the squad members to laugh. Despite being enraged by their attitude, Han adopts a respectful tone, stating that he will make sure not to get in their way, and shakes hands with him, while Soki considers him an arrogant individual, wondering how long he is going to last, while Han vows to show him how capable he is. Returning to his room, Han freshens up and goes for training, displaying expertise in shooting, which causes Soki to become silently disappointed at not finding anything to blame him for after practicing shooting while lying down. Han starts to run toward the target, firing bullets accurately and hitting all of them. Considering his collaboration to be good, Han thinks that this will not give Soki any chance to call him a nuisance to the squad. Just then he looks at Soki, who stands with a frustrated expression on his face, and calls out to Kiro, asking what he is doing by standing still. In response, Kiro becomes a little confused, causing him to hold his head in disappointment. While taking a shower after training, Han wonders if his performance was not good enough for him to be accepted on the team. The next day, when he goes for practice, Soki informs him that he is on standby. Soki explains that in the mock battle training, the squad with more members has to adjust their team members accordingly, and they already have too many squad members with the same abilities as him. Soki states that instead of fighting in the battle, he can simply observe the battle from the training hall. Despite being disappointed at this partiality, Han remembers his younger siblings who are being taken care of by Major Kong and accepts it. After that, all of them gather in the training center to watch the flag capturing battle between Squad 3 and Squad 9. Soki suggests watching their battle carefully and analyzing their strategies, since there are some new members in Squad 3. Hearing about a new face in Squad 3, Han realizes they are talking about Del Simon, and all of them watched Del on the screen with interest. The squad members remarked that he seems to be a rude individual but also a psychic genius. Meanwhile, in the artificial forest, the members of Team 9 stand facing those of Team 3 with their weapons, wondering if they are insane to have come directly in front of them like that. In response, the leader of Team 3 states that they have an unbeatable psyker, which will make it easy for them to defeat Team 9 and take their flag. With that, Del activates his telekinesis, and the members of Team 9 charge at him to defeat him before he can use his ability. However, before they can reach him, all of their weapons disappear, leaving them shocked and confused. Looking at Del, they find him wielding extraordinary powers, causing their weapons to float in the air, and they wonder how he did that. Just as Del causes their weapons to come toward them at great speed and slashes their bodies, the rest of his team members charge forward to take the flag, overpowering the members of Team 9. Del's team easily takes the flag away, leaving the other squads astonished. Understanding the importance of having a great psyker during a mock battle, Soki turns to Kiro, stating that they can also follow the strategy since they have him on their team. However, at this moment, Han calls out to him, stating that he has a different idea. He explains that Squad 9 did not use any particular strategy and only pressed forward based on their individual capabilities. Stating this, he is about to say something else but hesitates, while Soki tells him to go on, asking if he wants to say that he would have proposed a different strategy if he were the leader. Looking at his rude expressions, Han realizes why Soki hates him so much. When another member of the squad signals him to come with him, taking him to a corner, the person states that both he and Soki acknowledge the fact that he is outstanding but he does not fit into their squad, upon which all the members agree. Realizing that they have been observing him, Han asks why he does not fit into their squad. In response, the person explains that this is because he is not afraid of voicing an opinion that contradicts Soki, acknowledging that he sometimes makes better decisions. The person states that there should only be one captain since having even a little doubt about Soki can lead them to be divided. He reveals that as long as Soki is the leader, Han can never get a chance to participate in mock battles and advises him to submit a transfer request to another squad when the timing is right. This makes Han realize that all the squad members must have faith in their leader, and he is the person who has threatened the authority of Soki, causing all of them to hate him. Contemplating the transfer request for some time, he goes to Wei Chen's office the next day, giving him an application, which surprises Wei Chen. Reading the application, Chen inquires if Han really wants it, and Han agrees. Chen states that this matter needs to be discussed by all the level 2 instructors so it might take some time. Returning to his room, he thinks that Wei Chen has made it easy for him since he needed some time. He decides to dedicate the time of mock battles to training his own abilities and analyzing the strategies used in squad battles to formulate his own. While he is thinking about that, Kiro comes to his room, asking what he talked to the vice squad leader about, but he changes the topic, asking about the preparations for his airborne training. In response, Kiro reveals that he can maneuver up to 4 airbits with people on them, causing Han to become astonished, stating that he seems to be one of the highest performers at level 2. This causes Kiro to become a little more confident, while Han smiles, thinking that he will always be there to cheer him up. The next day, all of the squad members gather in the training hall once again, discussing that there is an amazing psyker on Squad 7 named Kiro. Meanwhile, the competition is about to begin, and all of the squad members stand ready in their positions, turning to Kiro. Soki states that it is all upon him, telling him to take good care of them while Kiro stands confidently determined to try his best. A few moments later, it is announced that the battle between Squad 1 and Squad 7 is about to begin, causing everyone to look at the screen in excitement. Han recalls that the most significant thing in airborne training is the air bit, which is the type of robotic drone that acts as steps mid-air. A single person generally manipulates air bits either to travel or to use them as a weapon against their opponent. Considering that the most important position during the airborne battle is that of a supporter who manipulates multiple air bits simultaneously, Han thinks it's a suitable position for Kiro. Meanwhile, Soki signals his squad members to proceed forward, stating that if they follow the strategies, it's going to be a sure victory for them. With that, his squad members stand on the air bits and proceed forward, causing the captain of Squad 1 to signal his team members to move as well. Looking at the members of Team 1 moving forward together bit by bit, the vice leader of Squad 7 considers it to be according to their expectations. As soon as the members of Team 1 reach them, they split up their air bits and start moving in different directions. However, before they can move away, the vice team leader reaches near one of them and hits him with such force that he crashes to the ground. Following that, Soki himself hits another squad member, causing him to fall down and smiles, thinking that everything is going according to their plan. Realizing that Squad 7 has eliminated 2 members of the opposite team right after starting, the people watching the fight become astonished, wondering if their team was always that strong. Han remembers Soki explaining his strategy and telling Kiro to take responsibility for his and the vice team leader's air bits. Soki instructed Kiro to use his foresight ability to see their moves ahead of time and then maneuver the air bits accordingly, causing Kiro to feel a little nervous. Hearing the strategy, the vice team leader turned to Soki, asking if he planned on eliminating the members of the opposite team based on their close combat ability, and he agreed. Remembering that, Han realizes that Soki's strategy is working quite well for the time being, while they confidently keep fighting. Operating the air bits, Kiro feels increasingly anxious, thinking that even a single mistake of his can lead everyone to lose. Just then, his foresight ability shows him the next move the opposite team is going to take that can cause some damage to their team member. The very next moment, leader of Squad 1 hits the member of Squad 7 with a stick, causing him to become a little injured but not fall. Astonished by their capability, the members of Team 1 wonder if they're always this strong and realize that there are only 2 members left on their team. Looking at the members of Team 7 standing confidently in front of them, the captain of Team 1 watches Kiro, thinking of going for him instead of his team. Therefore, deciding to go with their first plan, he signals the only remaining team member of his, nodding in response. The team member starts to move ahead, with the captain himself jumping upwards, causing Soki and his team to wonder if they are coming for face-to-face combat. However, to their surprise, the captain of Team 1 jumps above them and lands on the air bit behind them, while the other member of his team collides with Soki and his fellows, and the bulky member of his group pushes them downward. The captain of Team 1 swiftly travels in Kiro's direction, eliminating all the squad members. In his way, telling his squad members to avoid chasing the captain. Soki instructs them to come and help them, stating that the person holding them plans to take them down. Watching this strategy, all of the people in the hall, including Han, become shocked, thinking that they should have gone to save Kiro. Meanwhile, Kiro remembers Soki telling him that the air bits 4 and 8 will always be on standby behind him for emergency situations. Looking at the captain of Team 1 coming towards him, Kiro decides to utilize those air bits and starts to maneuver them. Just as the team leader raises his weapon in the air, Soki and the rest of the squad members successfully overpower the second member of their group, causing him to crash to the ground. After eliminating that person, they quickly turn towards the rear, finding Kiro lying unconscious on the ground while the team leader stands beside him, smiling. Just then, the air bits controlled by Kiro become dysfunctional, causing Soki and the vice team leader to crash to the ground. This causes all of the people standing in the training hall to make different remarks about the squads. They realize that Soki's strategy solely relied on Kiro's remarkable psychic ability. However, when he operated the air bits on standby to hit the team leader of Squad 1, both of the air bits collided with each other and got destroyed, making him more anxious. This is how a single mistake by Kiro led all their plans to be destroyed. With that, the victory of Team 1 is announced, and Han starts to walk out of the hall, thinking that he would never have left Kiro alone if he were the squad leader. Visiting Wei Chen's office, Han then inquires about the status of his application, and Wei Chen informs him that his team establishment application has been accepted. Stating that his leader of evaluation was outstanding, Wei Chen reveals that all of the instructors agreed to give him a chance. With that, he gives him a paper mentioning the conditions for forming a squad, stating that there must be at least 4 members in the squad and he can appoint the members from other squads. Reading this condition, Han thinks that following it will cause all the other squad leaders to start hating him and formulate strategies to avoid losing their core members. However, still determined to try it, Han leaves the office thinking that the 2 members he would want to have on his team are Joyce and Kiro. Yet because Joyce is not level 2 currently, he decides to try talking to Kiro first. However, just then, he remembers one more person who can come into his team, and goes to one of the rooms, knocking on the door. Opening the door, the person turns out to be Dmitri, greeting him warmly. After losing the airborne battle, Soki becomes disappointed that their ranks keep dropping because of Kiro. Agreeing, the vice captain states that they should have pushed harder to bring Del Simon to their team. Soki concurs, praising Del for his incredible combat and psychic abilities, capable of handling at least 3 opponents simultaneously. In contrast, Soki dismisses Kiro as incapable, believing his abilities to be lies. Unknown to them, Han secretly overhears their conversation. Soki admits that he has no one else to replace Kiro, which is the sole reason for keeping him on the team. When Han approaches Dmitri to share his plan for forming a new team, Dmitri is astonished and asks Han whom he plans on recruiting besides him. Han reveals his intention to convince Kiro to join his team, but Dmitri remarks that squad leaders won't let their members leave so easily. Hearing this, Han asks Dmitri for his answer, and Dmitri politely refuses, stating that he has to become the next squad leader for Squad 5, making it difficult for him to leave his current team. Hearing that, Han lowers his head, deciding not to convince him further, while Dmitri goes on to state that he would rather be his opponent since it is more fun. Hearing this, Han smiles, warning Dmitri not to complain when he defeats him in the competition. And Dmitri playfully threatens to break both of Han's arms in response. As Han leaves Dmitri's room and walks through the corridor, the other squad leaders watch him with disgust, jealous of him and his attempt to establish a new squad. Just then, Soki blocks his way, asking if this is how he is going to stab him in the back. Stating that he does not care about him leaving the squad and forming a new one, Soki declares that he will not let him take Kiro from their team. Having no authority to say anything, Kiro also turns his gaze aside, while Han explains that he will not be able to show his full potential under their guidance. In response, Soki states that Kiro will gradually improve and become a core member of their squad. However, Han argues that they cannot ask their opponent to wait if the war breaks out immediately and claims that he can draw out the maximum of Kiro's potential immediately, stating that a commander has to win with limited manpower and that they cannot change the results later, no matter who they blame. Han causes Soki to become enraged, grabbing him from his clothes. Soki states that no matter what he says, they are not going to let him take Kiro. In response, Han states that they are no one to decide, and it will all depend on Kiro's decision, causing Soki to turn around and angrily call out to Kiro, stating that in case Kiro decides to leave, Soki threatens to kill him, causing Kiro to become frightened, asking if he can really do it. Han states that he talks uselessly too much and that if he ever falls in water, his mouth will be the only thing to float. In response, Soki punches him forcefully, causing him to crash to the ground. Looking at him, Han states that he will let that one slide because it will be annoying to get dragged around over something like this. With that, he starts to walk, telling Kiro that he will be waiting for him. While all the captains confidently state that no one will leave their squad for a person who has not even proven himself, hearing their rude remarks, Kiro feels bad as well as confused. Meanwhile, Han thinks that he has suggested joining his squad to all the people who were on their team and wonders what his next move must be. While lost in thought, he accidentally collides with someone wearing a skeleton face and a hoodie and apologizes, but the person quickly moves away without responding. Looking at the person's dress, which looks very unusual and different from others, Han wonders if something like that is even allowed. Just then, he receives a notification telling all squad leaders to gather in front of the second building. After some time, all the squad leaders arrive to meet Sasha, who introduces them to the 6 newly advanced individuals, stating that they need to be assigned to a squad. She states that she is going to give the first choice to the new squad leader and calls Han, causing him to think of it as a good opportunity. Stepping forward, Han introduces himself, stating that his group is currently lacking members and giving all of them a choice to join whoever wants it. Hearing that, all the other squad leaders start to laugh. However, just then one of them volunteers to join Han's squad, causing him to look up in surprise and find it to be Joyce, which makes him happy. At night, Han tells Joyce everything about his squad, causing him to become a little disappointed, thinking that more people should have joined him. However, happy for his collaboration, Han thanks Joyce for showing his trust and support, stating that he always wanted to be on the same team as him. In response, Joy states that the people who are not joining his squad are fools, and if they come to know about his abilities, they will be lining up at his door. Getting up, Joy states that they should try to recruit more people the next day, and prepares to leave when someone knocks at the door. Opening the door, Han is shocked to see Kiro with a bruised face and asks what happened to him. In response, Kiro reveals that he told Soki about his decision to leave the squad and all he could do was torture him a little. Astonished to hear that, Han remarks that Kiro has become quite confident and has changed a lot. Joy's remarks that they formed the same team as they did on the deserted island, making them an unbeatable trio. Just then, someone walks into the room and asks if he can also become a part of the team, causing them to turn around. In stating that everyone is talking about Han, the person states that their squad seems to be the most fun. While surprised, Han stands still, staring at him. Putting his hand on Han's shoulder, Joy states that he knows the person since they were in the same class, and Han smiles, stating that he is the person their squad needs at the moment. Recognizing him as Knut Meyer, Han welcomes him into the squad. While Han shares his hopes to have a good experience, while Knut asking if his joining has made their squad official. Agreeing, Han states that they are an eyesore to the other squads, and if they are not careful, they might be disbanded, which will not be good for them. In response, all of them assure him that they are ready to face whatever comes in their way. Looking at them, Han thinks that his shoulders feel heavy with responsibility but also feels confident in his ability to do it. The next day, Han takes his squad members to meet the head instructor, who greets them warmly and introduces himself to them. Turning to the squad members, Grossman, the head instructor, calls out the names of all of them, becoming familiar with their faces. While calling out to Kiro, he looks at his bruised face and asks what happened to it. In response, Kiro smiles, stating that he slipped from the stairs, causing him to become a little surprised and then instructs him to be careful. Coming to the point, Grossman states that they will be allotted a grace period for the competitions starting that day that will last for 3 weeks. Stating that they will have to participate in the competition after the period, the instructor advises them to work hard and prepare well in advance. A few days later, Han gets ready for a competition along with his team, realizing that they should not take this lightly. The first competition that is decided for them belongs to the category of gun survival against Squad 9, which is one of the strongest squads with the most victories. While he is thinking about that, Knut takes off his helmet, remarking that it is stuffy, and asks if it is fine to not wear it until they do not get shot, forcefully making him wear the helmet. Han asks if he wants to die. Han instructs him not to take it off, stating that he is not permitted to do that under any circumstances, causing him to become a little scared. Wearing his own helmet, Han states that the strategy they will be using is called the moving bunker, a name he has made just then, telling them not to laugh. Confused by such a strange name, all 3 of the squad members stare at him. After a few moments, their competition begins, with the members of Squad 9 standing confidently, thinking of finishing the competition quickly. On the other hand, Han shows an equal level of confidence, stating that they will definitely win when the competition begins. While watching the competition from the training hall, all the other squads encourage Squad 9 to beat Han and his team in order to punish them for standing up against them. Standing among the crowd, Dmitri remarks that Han and his group have become quite popular. While Del thinks that there is no way they can win the gun survival game, meanwhile, the members of Squad 9 start to proceed but are unable to find Han and his group. Wondering if they are sticking to the starting point, thinking that this is all they can do against a powerful squad like them, the members of Squad 9 decide to reach the place when Knut, who is hiding behind a tree, remarks that they are very fast. Turning to his wristwatch, Knut informs his team members that the opponents are within 200 meters of their range, and he will be joining them shortly. Reading the message, Han is surprised, thinking that they have quickly started moving in their direction. In response, Joyce remarks that they are the type of people who will never allow them to rest but shares his relief at finishing all their preparations. Han thinks that Knut should already be aware of their situation and instead of trying hard to get to them, he should stay back and keep hiding. However, in contrast to that, Knut leaves his place and reveals himself to the opponents who strike a bullet at his leg, causing him to feel intense pain. Looking at them advancing toward him at great speed, Knut starts shooting blindly, thinking that this will help strike at least one of them. However, All 4 members of Squad 9 quickly take their places behind trees, saving themselves from the bullet strikes. After firing some bullets, Canute crashes to the ground again, wondering where the opponents went. When they suddenly opened fire once again, causing him to quickly drift aside and hide behind the tree. Thinking of the original strategy to get back to his team, Canute realizes that he will only become a burden to them with his injured leg and considers it better to buy them some time. Watching Canute, members of Squad 9 wonder why he is the only one facing them when one of them states that the battle is going to end with a direct encounter anyway. After thinking about something, the captain of the squad turns to his team members, stating that he is going to go inside and instructing them to give him cover. Meanwhile, Han, Joyce, and Kiro stand ready for battle, having fully recovered their lost stamina, and decide to start immediately. Han, expressing gratitude for Newt's strategic sacrifice, remarks that he must be injured, choosing to buy them time instead of regrouping. Joyce acknowledges that their energy recovery is due to Canute, recalling his earlier lack of stamina due to using telekinesis and fire to cut a tree, asserting that it is time to prove themselves. Han commands his squad to advance, and they proceed while using the tree log as their shield. Observing this, everyone in the training hall is surprised by their strategy, with Dimitri and Del crediting Kiro for it. Meanwhile, Canute, still hidden behind the tree, opens fire again, wasting all his bullets. As he sits down to reload, the captain of Squad 9 reaches near him, remarking that he is indeed alone while they were suspecting it to be a trap. Seeing one of Han's squad members defeated, Dimitri comments that it is still a good tactic, assuming the log shield is their last defense. However, Del points out a weakness in the strategy, suggesting that Han must be aware of it. Meanwhile, Han and his group keep getting closer to Squad 9 members, who are unable to stop them. They realize that they selected their members based on shooting abilities, and none of them have strong psychic powers to blow the gigantic log away. Han recognizes this weakness and begins to exploit it, causing Squad 9 to take cover behind trees for protection. Their captain instructs them to prolong the battle, anticipating that their psyker will tire from using telekinesis, giving them an advantage. Hearing that, Han thinks that he is already aware of this weakness and is using this log only as a means to bring them close enough to the targets. As soon as they reach Squad 9, Joyce uses his combustion ability to set surrounding plants on fire, leaving the opponents bewildered in the smoke. Seeing the members of Squad 9 covered in smoke, the people in the training hall question the legitimacy of such tactics. After creating a smoke screen, Joyce informs Han that Squad 9 members won't be able to see their surroundings. With a smile, Han directs his teammates to deal with those emerging from the smoke and swiftly defeats 2 members of Squad 9 who are coughing in haste. Realizing that 2 of their team members have already been eliminated, the third one feels anxious while their captain tells him to calm down, stating that the opponents cannot see them either. However, to their surprise, bullets come flying in their direction, with Han emerging from the smoke and stating that they have eyes that can see everything. With that, they fired a few final bullets, causing their squad to win, leaving all the people standing in the training hall surprised. While Dimitri feels happy for them to have won, Del becomes frustrated as well as jealous. Meanwhile, Kiro and Joyce happily turn to Han, giving him a thumbs up on their victory, and he reciprocates the same. Watching Han on the screen from a distance, Grossman, the head instructor, becomes surprised to have figured out his true capability. In celebration of their victory against the powerful Squad 9 members, Han and his team enjoy a special meal, feeling more encouraged to proceed forward. Stating that it is time for them to hear a few words from their squad leader who led them to this victory, Joyce turns to Han, asking him to say something. In response, Han shares his gratitude with everyone, stating that their victory was only possible with everyone's collaboration. Adding to that, Kiro calls his plan incredible, which became the reason for their victory. Han states that luck also played a part in their victory since they already figured out that Squad 9 would send those members who are the best at shooting for this competition. However, Canute gives credit to Han, stating that it was only possible because of his ability to read his opponents and remarking that his decision to join Han's team was the right one. Just then, he begins to feel an intense pain in his stomach, causing Joyce to tell him to go and rest. However, he assures them that he is fine and will never miss a feast like that no matter what. Meanwhile, the head instructor sits in his office, watching the footage of the competition, while feeling surprised that Han's squad defeated Squad 9, whose victory was guaranteed. He's thinking that he must squash them before they become overconfident in their abilities. Grossman wonders who will be the best for this plan and considers Soki as an option. Considering that Soki's squad will try their best to defeat Han's squad, Grossman wonders what will happen if Squad 7 loses to them. However, dismissing that thought, he decides to make it impossible for them to lose. Meanwhile, Han lies on his bed, unable to sleep, and recalls the time when he could not sleep due to the fear of getting expelled, which he doesn't need to worry about anymore. Confident in the abilities of his squad members, he thinks that no matter how strong the opponent is, they must be able to beat them with collaboration. The next day, their squad is nominated for a captain's battle against Squad 1. Standing ready for the competition to start, the squad captain of Team 1 reminds his members about their strategy for targeting Joyce and Kiro, stating that both of them have incredible psychic abilities. The squad captain nominates another individual along with him to deal with them exclusively, stating that he does not know about the abilities of the other two members of Han's squad. The squad captain states that they will not mean much to them. Therefore, he turns to the bulky member of their group, giving him the task of targeting the rest. Watching the competition on the screen, Dmitri wonders how much hatred they have with the instructors to go against Squad 1 in a captain battle. After a competition against Squad 9, with the strongest member of Team 1 wearing a headscarf, it is announced that in the captain battle, the opposite team needs to take down the person wearing a headscarf to win. Considering the nomination of that bulky person to become the captain, all of the people standing in the training hall think their victory is guaranteed. Excited for the competition, Dmitri wonders how Han is going to deal with the situation, while Del tells him to keep quiet and watch. However, as soon as the squad members reach Han and his team, they are surprised to find Kiro as the captain. Thinking of it as being against their strategy, the members of Squad 1 become confused and are unable to find Han. Meanwhile, Kiro, who is increasingly feeling nervous and anxious, tries to calm himself down, and the other two members of their group assure him that they will protect him no matter what. Thinking that, they proceed quickly as planned while the captain of Squad 1 assures himself that the opponents will not be able to find the opening even if their members hide somewhere. Therefore, he commands his team members to charge forward, and they comply as they start. Proceeding forward at great speed, Han stands on a tree branch right above his team members, recalling that this is a competition in which they only have to take down the captain. Meanwhile, the squad members reach Joyce and Canute, attempting to launch an attack, while they also come into action, activating their abilities, stating that their unique abilities will not work. The squad members utilize their specialty of physical combat and try to overpower them. Watching the fight from above, Han looks at Kiro, who is waiting for his signal, and tells him to proceed with the plan while jumping down himself. Meanwhile, the nominated captain of Squad 1 comes forward and grabs both Joyce and Canute tightly, making them unable to move. Instructing him to keep grabbing them, the leader of the squad rushes towards Kiro in order to take him down. While Han reaches for them, declaring it to be their victory, the squad members charge at Kiro, who keeps looking upward, making them confused. Just then, something crashes to the ground, causing smoke to spread everywhere, leading them to turn around in bewilderment. As soon as the clouds of smoke dissipated, the members of the squad become shocked to find their captain lying on the ground with Han sitting next to him, declaring their victory. Watching that, all the people standing in the training hall all become surprised, while astonished at Han jumping down from a tree that is almost 5 stories tall. The entire hall begins to praise him, calling him an incredible individual. Watching their reaction, Dmitri laughs, stating that they were talking negative things about Han a while ago, and he has proven himself yet again through his ludicrous strategies. While all of the squad members get impressed by Han, wondering why he did not take part in competitions, Soki becomes enraged and frustrated. One day before their battle with Squad 1, Han and his team were practicing in the training hall, confident in their abilities and progress. Han noticed Kiro using telekinesis to control a living human, which he found incredible. In response, Kiro complimented Han for his courage in jumping from such a height. Han explained that telekinesis was a rare ability, which was why most psykers couldn't fly. He went on to discuss their strategy, instructing Kiro to control his descent speed to ensure their team's safety. Remembering this, Kiro kneels down, apologizing to Han for his broken arm, thinking that it happened because of him. In response, Han tells him not to apologize, stating that no one died and he surely did his best. Canute chimes in, reminding Kiro that his actions have successfully caused the captain of Squad 1 to fall. However, they feel glad that until Han's arm fully heals, they will not have any more scheduled battles. To their surprise, their wristwatches suddenly ring with a notification. They will be facing Squad 7 in an airborne battle in 2 days, leaving them shocked. Soki, receiving the same notification as Han and his team, walks straight to the office of the head instructor, his frustration and questions filling his mind. In a discussion among themselves, Joyce expresses concerns that battling while injured will lead them to defeat, with Canute agreeing and anxious about facing Squad 7. Frustrated by this decision, Joyce calls it unfair and suggests they file a complaint. Meanwhile, the head instructor explains to Soki that the battle with Squad 7 has been arranged for them to win, questioning Soki's confidence in his victory. Soki responds that even without the disadvantage, his squad would have won, making the head instructor smile and urging him to ensure his victory. Leaving the office, Soki feels frustrated with the instructor for not listening to him as he walks away. Meanwhile, Han arrives at the training ground, stating that crying won't change anything, their focus should be on winning. He acknowledges that he hasn't devised a strategy yet but promises to create one to secure their victory before the battle. As they discuss this, Soki approaches them, remarking that Han's plans are fascinating, and he asks if Han will be okay with his broken arm. In response, Han raises his other arm, claiming it will be enough to defeat Squad 7. Soki reminds him of the difficulty of airborne battles and tells Han to keep it in mind. Han replies that he will prepare something unique for them and encourages Soki to do his best. Frustrated, Soki threatens to kill both Han and Kiro, but Han warns him against making empty threats. Frightened by Han's response, Soki angrily walks away, telling them to wait and see, while Han and his team remain unfazed, acknowledging that Squad 7 won't be an easy opponent. Han instructs his team to head to the gym. Sometime later at the gym, all 4 of the team members practice operating their airbits, with Han unable to do that despite continuously trying, which makes him frustrated. Looking at Joyce, Han thinks that it is not going to be easy for him either, considering that he will have to use his combustion ability alongside telekinesis. Thinking that the only option left for them is to solely depend on Kiro like Squad 7, Han considers the heavy psychological pressure it will put on him, which he does not want to do. Considering the power of the members of Squad 7 and their strength in teamwork under the supervision of Soki, Han thinks that it will not be easy to defeat them in a head-on battle. Just then, Joyce calls out to him, stating that there is a problem and reveals that since there is nothing combustible in the air, his ability will not pose much threat to the opponent. In addition to that, he states that because everyone will be flying in the air quickly, it would be very difficult for him to target someone, causing Han to become silent. Watching them practice from a distance, the vice team leader of Squad 7 turns to Soki, stating that the skill level of their opponent shows that they do not need to worry about the battle. While Han tries to find a way for them to win, Soki thinks of a reason for them to lose, but both of them find none. 2 days later, all of the students gather in the hall again, surprised to find that Han and his group have another battle despite him being injured. Looking at the schedule in the opponent team, Dmitri realizes that Han's team is intentionally set up to lose. Remarking that Grossman is an awful person while Dell remains silent, Dell justifies the battle by explaining that Grossman aims to maintain a balance in winning probability for all squads, determining battles and opponents based on his analysis. Concerned about facing Squad 7, Dell wonders what strategy Han will employ this time. Facing Han and his team in the battling compartment, Soki vows to destroy them completely, showing them the consequences of being traitors. Meanwhile, Han turns to Joyce, inquiring about his condition, and Joyce assures him that he is more than ready to use his abilities and burn down everything, telling Han not to worry. In response, Han tells him to take good care of them, stating that he is the core of their battling strategy. Just then, the announcement to begin the battle is made, and both teams are instructed to launch their airbits. As they observe the number of airbits launched by Han's team, the entire hall falls into shock silence. Meanwhile, Soki stares at the 16 airbits floating in the air. Considering it impossible, He knows that an average person can control 2 air bits, and a skilled individual can manage up to 4, making this display utterly bewildering. Watching their expressions, Han smiles, remarking that he certainly looks very confused and asking to allow him to clear up his mind in a moment. Gazing at the 16 air bits suspended in the air, Squad 7 members become astonished, wondering if it's even possible. Soki, in the meantime, instructs them not to be swayed by the sight. He urges them to proceed according to the plan, emphasizing that they will calmly dismantle their opponents one by one. Meanwhile, Joyce and Canute jump onto the air bits and advance forward. As Han charges his hand with telekinesis, he reflects on how he never stopped honing his telekinetic abilities even during training. Despite his telekinesis being below average, Han believes he has acquired the skill to focus his powers where he desires. Gripping one of the air bits, he contemplates how he could use his ability for more than mere object control, possibly sending them flying even faster. Acting on this thought, he sends one air bit hurtling towards Soki, who reacts by evading it skillfully. At the same time, Joyce activates his combustion ability, recalling Han's strategy of using something combustible in the air. He directs his ignition powers at the air bit sent by Han, causing it to explode amid Soki's team, leaving them all stunned, wondering if they just witnessed an airbit explosion. Onlookers in the training hall comment on the expense but express excitement, urging Han's team to explode them all. Meanwhile, Han continues sending airbits towards Soki's group, while Joyce keeps directing his ignition powers, causing continuous blasts, which result in 2 Squad 7 members falling down. Recognizing the risk of exploding all their airbits, Soki urges the Vice Team leader to block the attacks, while the Vice leader argues that getting closer might expose them to the explosions. Just then, the head instructors come running into the training hall, commanding them to stop the competition right away, calling Han to his office. The head instructor keeps silently staring at him, causing him to wonder if that was what he called him for. After some time, the instructor speaks up, asking if he is aware of the cost of 1 air bit. In response, Han states that he is aware of how expensive they are, causing the instructor to remark that if he were not a member of ARC, it would have taken a lifetime for him to pay that amount. Hearing that, Han asks if he was not called to inquire about his strategy. In response, the instructor states that it was not against the rules, but he should have realized that it was going to be highly controversial, stating that he is against such a strategy. The instructor tells him to inform him in advance if he ever plans on using such a strategy again in the future. Complying, Han states that he wants to ask one thing, which the instructor allows, stating that if they were battling dragons, Han asks if it would not be considered controversial or if he would ask about the cost of the air bits, emphasizing that they need to win no matter what. Han calls it the main point of their training. Grossman starts laughing, stating that he is speechless and that Han reminds him of someone he knows, remarking that it is a good attitude to have. Grossman states that he looks forward to his future competitions. With that, the head instructor dismisses Han, who leaves the office only to find Soki standing at the door. Soki recalls Han's strategy of exploding air bits, and then falling with him, asserting that even after winning, they won't impress anyone. Stating that it will be decided at a later time, Han asks if Soki was waiting outside just to say that, to which Soki becomes frustrated and denies it, claiming he was just passing by. As Han starts to walk away, Soki vows to trample on him and his team, urging them not to lose to anyone else until then. Sometime later, Han returns to his room where his team members await him at the dinner. As he gets inside, Kiro remarks that the battle was a victory for them, while Joyce shares his worry that their strategy might have gone against the rules. With a serious expression, Joyce starts to look at his wristwatch, causing Kiro to ask if everything is all right. Joyce explains that they typically receive the announcement for their next competition during the feast, which is what he was checking. As expected, the announcement arrives, and it causes all of them to react differently. Upon reading that their next competition will be capturing the flag against Squad 5, realizing that Squad 5 is the team with Dimitri on it, who is even better than him in physical combat, Han thinks that Grossman really used his head to decide the schedule. Meanwhile, Dimitri walks out of the gymnasium after completing his daily workout and feels hot, thinking that he will take a shower immediately after getting to his room. Just then, he comes across a person who watches him, quickly starts to walk away, recognizing him to be the ex-squad leader of Squad 5. Dmitry stops him, stating that he cannot ignore him after ascending to level 3, and starts to inform him about the squad doing well. To his shock, the person responds by rudely telling him to get away before he is killed. Surprised at such an unexpected reply, Dmitry becomes excited, thinking that he will now surely get the details after fighting it out. Badly injured and exhausted from the battle, Han looks at the person approaching him from the front during the flag-obtaining competition, wondering who he is. Han realizes that the person wearing a skeleton mask and holding 2 swords is incredibly strong. When the person suddenly vanishes in front of him, suddenly appearing right next to him, the person hits Han with his sword, causing intense pain and making Han crash to the ground. 6 days ago, the head instructor called Han to his office and told him something that left him shocked. The instructor, stating that he couldn't reveal the details at that moment, informed Han that Dmitry had suddenly been injured and wouldn't be able to participate in the upcoming competition. However, he also mentioned that the competition would proceed as scheduled, leading Han to believe that Squad 5 without Dmitry would be like a headless chicken, giving them a free win. Setting that matter aside, the instructor showed Han certain documents, explaining the reason for summoning him. Han, taking the documents, asked about their contents, and the instructor revealed that they were all applications for squad transfer requests to his squad. The instructor explained that he had become famous for fairly utilizing his squad members, something Han had expected. Looking at the applications, he noticed that most of them were from people who had recently advanced to level 2 and wanted to become prominent. The instructor advised Han to take some time to consider this carefully, but Han readily accepted all of them into his squad, stating that he wasn't in a position to be selective. Sometime later, all 4 of the new squad members came to Han for an introduction, and he warmly welcomed them. Han informed them that they would begin preparing for the competition the next day, asking them to observe their specialty skills and choose roles accordingly, and inquired if anyone had objections. At that moment, one of them spoke to him in Korean, prompting Han to ask if there was a problem. In response, Zhang Jizhou, the individual, tried to take advantage of their shared nationality, requesting that Han take good care of him. In response, Han simply stated that their nationality didn't guarantee special treatment and that they needed to prove themselves with their skills, making him feel embarrassed. He then instructed them to leave, leaving Jizhou feeling annoyed and walking away in frustration, muttering something in Korean that left his companions confused. An hour before the actual incident, the flag-obtaining competition began with the downlit closing, plunging everything into darkness and confusing Han's team members. Han reassured them, reminding them that their opponents were in the same environment, and they only needed to wait for their eyes to adjust to the darkness. He explained their strategy, assigning Canute and his team to the actual action and Joyce and his team to back up. Meanwhile, Han, Kiro, and Jizhou were supposed to attack from the side. Despite Squad 5's perceived weakness without Dmitry, Han advised his team members not to let their guard down. 10 minutes earlier, the leading team made their entrance, followed by the backup team. Han and his group members, within 5 minutes, collectively eliminated all members of Squad 5. However, one of the group members pointed at a person sitting by the flag, suggesting that he is the sole remaining member who had quietly observed his team members getting defeated. Suddenly, the person got up and approached them, swiftly eliminating all of Han's team members, leaving Han shocked. Just then, Kiro pushed Han to the ground, warning him to be cautious, and took the hit directed at Han himself. Realizing that the person had teleportation abilities, Han watched as he moved swiftly. Thinking that there was no time to be surprised, he quickly took action, swinging his sword and causing the person to drift backward. Jizhou, the only remaining member of his group, attempted to approach, but the person executed a backflip in the air and kicked Jizhou with such force that he crashed to the ground. As the entire squad was eliminated, the people in the training hall wondered who was behind the skeleton mask, noting that he seemed to be a person known as Silence. Hearing the name Silence, the entire hall was surprised, realizing that he was indeed the same person. Dell recalled that Silence was the individual whose central nervous system had been damaged during training, rendering him unable to speak but granting him extraordinary strength. While everyone shared their thoughts about this mysterious person, Han retrieved his weapon from the ground, causing Silence to turn around. Han, unaware of Silence's identity, declared that he had no intention of losing, addressing him as Skeleton Mask. With that, he charged his hand with overwhelming energy and tightened his grip on his weapon. Observing this, the opponent also charged his entire body with overwhelming energy, preparing for the battle. Realizing that the person fighting against Han is a level 3 individual, which is on an entirely different level, Del becomes surprised. He thinks that there is no possible way of winning against such a powerful individual and wonders what Han is going to do. Thinking that being unable to block the next attack by that person will cause them to lose, Han vows not to give up that easily. Therefore, before starting the battle, he decides to analyze the situation by remembering how he eliminated the rest of the group members. Considering the winning condition to be capturing the flag instead of taking down the individual, Han thinks that interrupting the person momentarily can lead him to victory. While the person becomes ready to run, Han concludes that he can interrupt the person while he is using his ability. With that, the person teleports once again and travels swiftly, and Han, in the same direction, appears right above him, leaning down to block the attack launched by the person. Han quickly gets up, making the person confused and attempting to launch a forceful punch. However, to his surprise, the person dodges the attack and launches a forceful kick, causing Han to crash to the ground. Putting his foot on Han's body, the person is about to strike him with a sword, when Han suddenly smiles and looks at the stick floating in the air, which comes toward the person at great speed. Before the person can turn around to see it, the stick comes down swiftly and strikes the person, causing him to momentarily lose consciousness. After 3 seconds, when the person regains consciousness, he finds Han having already obtained the flag. Han remarks that this time was enough for him to win the competition. Turning to the person, Han smiles, declaring it to be their victory, which causes the entire training hall to shout out in surprise, while leaving Del frustrated. The next morning, Kiro sits outside the dorm, giving food to a cat while remembering that there used to be a similar cat outside the orphanage. He recalls that because he had no friends and was considered an outcast, he used to spend time with the cat. However, he states that it is different now since he is not an outcast and has a lot of friends. When Jijo comes from behind, thinking Kiro is insane and calls him out, asking what he is doing, feeling a little embarrassed to see Jijo, Kiro asks why he is standing. Jijo states that he thought they should discuss something on their off day. Confused, Kiro gets up, asking what he wants to discuss, and Jijo explains that their squad currently does not have a vice leader, and he wants to volunteer for that and requires his support. Just then, the cat that was eating the food comes near Jijo, causing him to kick it away, leaving Kiro shocked. While Jijo tries to continue the conversation, Kiro, who is enraged by his act of kicking the cat, activates his powers, causing everything around them to shake badly. Looking at the dustbin behind them shaking badly, rising in the air, and then constricting like a paper ball, Jijo becomes scared while Kiro warns him never to do anything like that again. Frightened by his anger, Jijo agrees never to do anything like that again and crashes to the ground, trembling with fear. Meanwhile, Kiro runs to the cat, which goes away, having become frightened by the kick. Meanwhile, Han sits in a hospital room with Dimitri, who asks about the reason for his arrival. In response, Han states that he can only make assumptions since Ark keeps a lot of things secret and asks if it was a level 3 who did that to him. Agreeing, Dimitri reveals that their previous squad leader did that to him and remarks that a level 3 is definitely on a different level. He remembers that he could not even make a move before he was defeated, while Han notices his expression, realizing how sad and disappointed he is feeling. Dimitri reveals that the squad leader was not acting like himself, and it was as if he went insane. Hearing that, Han remarks that it is related to level 3 activities, noting that the level 3 facilities in Ark are quite lacking, and encountering them is very rare. Stating that they have to do a lot in order to finish their level 2 training, Han shares his belief that they will be able to fight in a real battle when they reach level 3, making Dimitri excited. Meanwhile, a person wearing a special armor suit comes out of a secret compartment, finding the same cat that was kicked by Jijo running behind the cat. Kiro also comes to the place. Happy to have found it, Kiro lifts it up, asking if it got hurt anywhere because of the kick and promising to give it more snacks. Just then, he turns around shocked to see the person standing in front of him, asking who he is.